Police body cam footage showing the attack against then Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, has been released. If you recall, David DePapi, the man accused, allegedly broke into the Pelosi's residence in San Francisco and eventually beat Pelosi with a hammer.
DePapi, who's being held in a San Francisco jail on charges of attempted murder and elder abuse, called into a local TV station Friday to apologize, saying, quote, "I'm sorry I didn't get more of them. It's my own fault. No one else is to blame. I should have come better prepared." The video of the October 28th attack was released on last Friday after Superior Court Judge Stephen M. Murphy refused prosecutors' request to keep it a secret. So I think this new footage should really put to rest any of these totally absurd counter narratives about what was going on there, which were, in my view, ridiculous to begin with. But anyone saying that, oh, he was like they knew each other, or I mean, there were some people who were suggesting it was a hookup, which again was totally ridiculous. But we now have footage of him smashing the window with a hammer. He broke in. I listened to the 911 call where Paul Pelosi is explaining to the 911 operator that he's trying to, it's clear he's trying to tip them off that he needs the police to come to his home without letting the intruder, without making him fearful that he's summoning the police. So he's like, it's very much a winking conversation, like, no, I don't know this guy. Yeah, everything's fine, but I definitely don't know him. Can you, that kind of thing. And then we see the foot where the police come to the door, and Paul Pelosi is, kind of, again, he's not struggling with the man in order to provoke a reaction, but he is trying to keep the hammer at bay, and then he hits him with the hammer. So, like, what conservative people, right-wing people who said and are still saying this raises more questions than it solves, what questions are left? I truly don't get it. An old man who had his house broken into and was brutally beat by an intruder by a hammer. I thought conservatives are supposed to be the tough on crime people. It's a crime story.
So I was very wrong about this, and I can see why now from each step of the evidence that's been released where I was misled, right? So, for example, the phone call where he identifies DePapi as a friend, and I think you're totally right. I encourage everybody to go listen to the 911 call because you can hear in Pelosi's voice that he is trying so hard to make this 911 operator understand that he is in danger without escalating the situation with DePapi. So he's trying to speak in a way that makes it sound to DePapi like he's okay, but to the 911 dispatcher that he is in trouble. So, you just read in the report, he called him a friend, and you think, oh, maybe he knows him. Why would he call him a friend if not? Until you hear it, right? You don't know why. The glass, the photo that we saw of the glass, there was a lot of glass outside, which made it look like the smashing had happened from the inside. But when you watch the video, you can see him pulling the hammer out as he smashes. So, of course, the glass comes out. They reported that Pelosi was in his underwear, right? Sounds suspicious, but of course, when you see this video, you see that he had been probably woken up by DePapi, right, and was not dressed. The prosecutor being the one who didn't want the video to come out. That was very interesting, right? Why the prosecutor would not want that to come out. It's very, it makes it sound like maybe there's something that the Pelosi's didn't want revealed. No, you see this. It's embarrassing for a senior man to be seen in this moment of it. So I could see how each of those pieces of the puzzle, when they were being reported piecemeal, right, they led to a certain impression. And then, of course, as soon as you see all of this together, you see it happened exactly the way they said. This poor man was in his bed, attacked by a crazy person, right? Did his best to de-escalate the situation, was giving him a drink, right? Trying to make him feel like, oh, no, it's okay. Everything's okay. While also trying to get help. And then, of course, the horrific attack against an elder is so hard to watch. So I was one of those people who was very wrong about this, very misled by what I thought was being open-minded to the evidence as it was emerging, and then now see how wrong I was and how clear this is, how horrific it was.
And people need to take a moment and think, imagine being woken up in the middle of the night by a stranger, by that guy who is he's a big guy, and he's got a hammer, and he clearly wants to harm your wife and is waiting for her to get there, and you have to not set him off. He could do it. You don't know what he's going to do at any moment. You have to try to call the police. You have to say, so while he's talking to the police, it's exactly like you said. So he name drops Nancy Pelosi a number of times. He says, my wife, Nancy Pelosi, said there's usually police outside, but maybe they're not here. Yeah, he's a friend, but I don't know him. I don't know him and wasn't expecting him to be here. Doing all that, has to answer the door without the guy thinking, oh, is that the cops? Now I got to make my move. Like, that's a lot to ask of anyone, let alone an 80-year-old man. I mean, who knows if he could take sleeping pills? He could do, to sleep through the night. A lot of old people do. So if he's groggy or was not, behaving exactly the way you might think someone would, but you might do that too in that situation.
Exactly. And he was smiling when he opened the door. That was another thing that was reported where it was like, well, he clearly didn't seem in danger. But of course he did. He was trying to convey to this man who he clearly felt was a physical threat to him from the moment he saw him. He was trying to convey to him everything is okay by trying to pretend to convey that to the police. And whoever took that report clearly didn't get that, although, of course, the police behaved very quickly. They reacted very quickly. If only they could have, been a split second faster, they could have saved him from being hit in the head. I almost don't fault the people who messed up on this because I was one of them. But I was very heartened to see, you really did see across the board, everybody seeing this video and being absolutely horrified. A lot of people like me saying, I got this wrong, just horrific. Clearly, this man was a physical threat. And again, I think that there's a real lesson there as well. Like, if it doesn't have to be a gun, if somebody that size. And even though Pelosi is taller than him, you can see that this man posed a real physical threat to him at every moment. And I think Pelosi, just like you said, I think he was very brave and very smart and clever in how he handled the situation and did his best. And I really, really hope that this is behind them and he's completely recovered. What a horrific thing to go through.
Yeah, which doesn't mean the Pelosis are like beyond criticism, obviously. And in fact, Paul Pelosi himself is someone we've criticized for his stock portfolio. Yeah, I mean the Pelosis more broadly for what are they using information they have as political figures to make millions. He was obviously he had the driving incident, so it's absolutely fine to scrutinize them, absolutely fine to be critical of them. But I just don't find, some on the right love this kind of, hammers and underwear like jokes I often see on social media. Like, I don't see what's funny about an old man getting beaten. He could have been beaten to death. In his home. Like, that's a horrifying thing. That's something I thought, again, Republicans are concerned about, right? Rising crime. What are we doing to prevent that? And conservatives are alarmed about, protesting outside the Supreme Court justice's house and putting them at risk and all that kind of stuff. It really seems like squandering the moral high ground to still pretend, we don't know what happened. Could have been, winking at the hilarious explanation for what it was. It's really just, let's take the L and move on with this one.
And I will say there were two notable apologies. Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia, immediately apologized to Nancy Pelosi in person, in public, and in writing for having made a sort of offhanded joke about this. And Elon Musk, who tweeted right after it happened a link to a obviously wrong story about how this was some sort of sordid thing. He wrote on Twitter over the weekend that he had apologized personally to the Pelosis as well, which is exactly what you want to see. Just real, menschlich behavior, as my people say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Batya. We'll have more Rising right after this.